Greetings everyone, and welcome to the launch of Shenzhou 12, the first Chinese crew launch to the Tiangong space station Tianhe-1 module. So this is a big day for China. China's had 2 space stations in the past, but this is their first long-term sort of ISS-style modular space station called the Tiangong space station, or TSS in English. And yeah, so this the Tianhe-1 module was launched a couple of months ago from the Wenchang Launch Center in the south of China. And a few weeks later, the first cargo module was launched up to rendezvous with the Tianhe-1 core module, which did dock successfully. And now they're getting their first crew. The crew consists of 3 Chinese citizens, Nie Haisheng, Liu Boming, and Tang Hongbo. Sorry if I get the pronunciations a little wrong, but this is Nie Haisheng is the commander. This will be his 3rd space flight. Liu Boming is called an operator. Both of the other individuals are called operators. This will be his 2nd space flight, and Tang Hongbo, this will be his 1st space flight. So they'll be riding in the Shenzhou 12 spacecraft on top of a Long March 2F rocket, launching from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in the far northwest of China in the Gobi Desert, a very remote location. And they'll be staying on station for a planned 3 months. So it's planned for them to return in September. I don't know exactly what date. So I don't have a ton of information, but I wanted to give you at least a brief intro. Let me go ahead and put myself in a corner. And see if we have any questions. All right. Tristan Armstrong, thank you. Bennu Yakisoba, I don't know where Bennu is. He's probably sleeping on the beanbag until I get my camera situation squared away. So as you can see, the taikonauts, as the Chinese astronauts are called, are already on board the Shenzhou spacecraft, the Shenzhou module. They boarded just a few minutes ago, and they were strapped in, and they're currently let's see, the what do they call it? The vertical assembly structure, the building that surrounds the rocket, opened up, revealing the rocket to the open air, and it will retract shortly so that the rocket has a clear. Actually, you know what? I don't think this one retracts, but in any case, the launch service structure opened up, exposing the rocket to the. Okay, so Seth Likes Band 13 is saying, is that capsule kind of like the Soyuz? Yeah, I'd say it's similar to the Soyuz. It looks like they're not quite as cramped as a Soyuz, which is really quite sardine-like, but not quite as roomy as the Crew Dragon either. So. But, all right, Chris V asks, where did the taikonaut that has been to space go to before? So let me look up some information for you. And by the way, the launch is not for another almost 2 hours, in fact, 1 hour, 50 minutes. So, but with these crew launches, the crew boards the craft long before the actual launch time. And we have live coverage throughout. So, all right, let me look up some information for you. Shenzhou 12, not Shenzhou 1, Shenzhou 12. Well, first, a little bit about the rocket, Long March 2F. So, let's see here. This is a hypergolic rocket. Well, yes, the first stage, the boosters, and the second stage are all hypergolic. So they've got nitrogen tetroxide and UDMH, or unsymmetrical dimethylhydrazine, fuel in both stages and the strap-on boosters. Now, hypergolic fuels are relatively stable, and so they don't need to be loaded immediately prior to launch like a cryogenic fuel does. But they're very toxic, and you'll probably notice upon launch that there's a plume of orange, like an orange cloud that is poofs away from the rocket. That is the nitrogen tetroxide. Even though nitrogen is forms, what, 78% of our atmosphere or something like that. When it forms nitrogen tetroxide, it is not good. It will mess up your respiratory system. So, and that's why the Crew Dragon capsule also uses hypergolic fuels, the same ones, nitrogen tetroxide and UDMH. And after splashdown, before the crew can exit the vehicle, they have to they take a lot of time to make sure that the air is clear of that nitrogen tetroxide, residue floating around, because it's quite toxic. So the Long March 2F has a height of 62 meters. That's 203 feet. Diameter of 3.35 meters, or 11 feet. A mass. Now, it doesn't specify whether this is dry mass. A mass of 464,000 kilograms, or 1,023,000 pounds. It is a two-stage rocket. And apparently Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center is the only place it launches from. Now, what I don't know, if we look at Shenzhou, spacecraft, Shenzhou has launched 11 times. It was first put into service in 1999 with Shenzhou 1. The last launch was Shenzhou 11. Now this is China's crew vehicle, crew capsule, like the Soyuz for Russia. consists of a forward orbital module, a re-entry module in the middle, and an aft service module. Again, similar to Soyuz. And a lot of the Chinese systems were inspired or based upon Russian designs, so that's not surprising that there would be a lot of similarities there. Let's see. Obviously, crew capacity is 3. Comparison with Soyuz. Oh, they actually haven't a section talking about comparison with Soyuz. Although the Shenzhou spacecraft follows the same layout as the Russian Soyuz, it is substantially larger. There is enough room to carry an inflatable raft in case of a water landing, whereas Soyuz astronauts must jump into the water and swim. The commander sits in the center seat on both spacecraft. However, the co-pilot sits in the left seat on Shenzhou and the right seat on Soyuz. So, a subtle difference, but the big difference is in the size. Still not as roomy as Crew Dragon, though. Shenzhou was prominently featured in the film Gravity. You may remember from a few years ago, Sandra Bullock. All right. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to take these off. I do not need them. I was thinking I would need to monitor the live stream coverage, but thankfully we have live coverage this time. We don't often get live coverage of Chinese launches, but this is a very high-profile mission. So for their Mars launch, well, actually, you know what? For their Mars launch, we didn't have live coverage, but we did for both of their previous Tiangong space station launches, the Tianhe module, as well as the cargo module, which name it escapes me at the moment, but yeah. So, and not only do we have live coverage, we have live coverage in English, which is a bonus for English speakers. Obviously, if you're Chinese, you probably prefer the Chinese coverage. But back to Chris V's original question a few minutes ago. He asked about the taikonauts. Let's see here. Shenzhou 12. Nie Haisheng previously flew on Shenzhou 6 in 2005. 4 days, 19 hours, 33 minutes. And did that dock with, I don't recall if China had their, all right, let me look up Tiangong. I don't remember the timeline of the Tiangong. Okay, Tiangong 1 was 2011. So this astronaut's first flight was prior to the first Chinese temporary space station or orbiting laboratory. And then his second flight was Shenzhou 10 in 2013. And it did dock with Tiangong 1. They call it a trial space laboratory module. And that mission lasted 14 days and change. And his third launch was, well, is this one. So if we go back to the operator 1, Liu Boming, he first flew on Shenzhou 7 in 2008. Again, that was prior to China having any kind of space station. Then again, this will be his second flight. and then the third taikonaut, it is his first flight. So it's like Wikipedia Live with raw space. Hey, we all have to look things up. I didn't have much time to study for this one, so. All right. And I do apologize for the short notice. I was not, because of the remote location, I had never seen a live broadcast from Jiuquan Launch Center before in the 3+ years I've been doing this. But in the 3+ years I've been doing this, they haven't had a crew launch. So there you go. But yes, we have a live broadcast, and here we are. Seth Likes Band 13 asks, what type of abort systems does the capsule use, or does it not have one? They do have an abort system. I heard them talking about that earlier. I don't know. I'm sure it uses solid propellant. That's generally... there's an escape tower on top of the rocket, so there would be solid propellant in the escape tower, similar to, you know, on a much smaller scale, similar to the Saturn V had. But they also mentioned that the escape system can pull up to 9 Gs. Now, normally during ascent, they would only experience 3 to 4 Gs of acceleration, but during a launch launch escape situation, if they had to get up on out of there, you know, it will pull significantly more G's of acceleration in order to get the taikonauts safely out of harm's way. Herbert Willock Jr. Are there any Americans on this launch? No, this is all China. Chinese rocket, Chinese taikonauts, and Chinese launch site. China is excluded from participation in the International Space Station by the United States Congress. So we have been unable to collaborate with them on any of our space endeavors. I'm not sure that they would want to if we offered, but, you know, politics are politics. Keep it out of the chat, please. We don't need any politics here. And in fact, if you have anything, shall we say, anything not nice to say, don't bother saying it, because we won't tolerate any politicking or nation bashing or anything like that. This is not a political platform. This is not the place for your soapbox, and even if you have legitimate grievances, this is not the place to air them. So keep it out of the chat so that we can maintain a respectful and constructive environment. Please and thank you. Otherwise, we'll kick you. So yes, this broadcast is from CCTV Plus. These views we're seeing are from CCTV Plus, which is China Central Television. So thanks to them for providing these views. To our European viewers, I apologize for the late hour. I mean, why am I apologizing? It's China's launch, but unfortunately, you know, rockets wait for no one. So looks like we have some connection issues. One moment. Make sure I still have an internet connection. There we go. All right. Dale Duncan, good to see you here. And thank you. My eye is feeling much better. I had laser eye surgery on my right eye a few days ago. Vision's not quite perfect yet. I was watching TV earlier and I couldn't read all the fine text on the screen, but hopefully in the next few days that'll even out and I'll have that perfect vision that I was hoping for. Camila Otero says, OMG, I totally lose the fact that China already has a station in low orbit. When did that happen? So this is actually China's third space station. The first two were sort of short-term affairs, but this is their long-term modular space station. It's not going to be nearly as big as ISS, but it's going to be a multi-module research laboratory that will be around for any number of years. And they launched the core module, the Tianhe-1 module, a couple of months ago. And then fairly quickly after that, a couple weeks after that, they launched the first cargo module that autonomously docked with the core module. And now they're launching the 3 taikonauts to crew the station for the next 3 months. David Moser asks, Raw, do they have any room for Bennu? Looks like they have room for Bennu, but I'm not sure Bennu. I'm not sure I can get Bennu to China in time to join the launch. Pre-Proto asks, is the capsule in a fairing? Hope they don't drop anything in there. No, the capsule wouldn't be in a fairing. It would be similar to the Soyuz, which is you have the 3 sections. It's like an insect. It's got a head, thorax, and abdomen. You've got the 3 sections of the Shenzhou crew vehicle that are directly mounted to the top of the Long March 2F rocket. There wouldn't be a fairing for that. The purpose of the fairing is to protect fragile satellite payloads from the ascent to orbit. But this crew vehicle is plenty tough. It can handle the air resistance, and it's aerodynamically optimized for its ascent through the atmosphere. Seth Likes Band 13 asks, is that place where the people were just standing, is that above the crew? Do you mean this platform? So I believe it's on the same level, essentially, as the crew compartment. I think there's a slight down, like I think the crew basically have to crawl down into their seats, but there's not a whole lot of room in there, so not too much crawling. Ash is asking, are they taking any sort of station components or modules with them? So the Shenzhou spacecraft itself is a crew spacecraft. It will be docking to the Tiangong space station and providing the crew with, just like a Soyuz or a Crew Dragon, provides them with a life raft, if they need to leave the station and come back home. And it will also be providing their return journey in September if all goes well. TJ Kaz, I did not catch the parade for the launch, but I'm sure it was something to behold. Thrash Metal Man. So they are headed to the Chinese space station, the Tiangong space station, or aka the TSS. The core module of that station is currently the only one that's up there. The core module and a cargo craft. They're just like a Progress or a Cygnus or whatever. So you've got one module and one cargo craft, and soon to be one crew vehicle. So yes, there is the beginnings of the Chinese space station up there currently, but they have an aggressive schedule of a planned, I believe, 11 launches over the next couple of years, over the next year and a half to 2 years, to continue building out their space station. It's not going to be as big as the ISS, but it's going to consist of, I think, maybe 3 or 4 modules, something like that. John G., I'm not expecting continual coverage through docking, but we'll take whatever we get with these Chinese broadcasts. I never know what to expect, because I mean, maybe if I read Chinese, I would have a better idea of what they plan to do. But I'm not sure that they yeah. I'm not expecting a whole lot of coverage after the Shenzhou craft separates from the rocket, but we shall see. If they keep going, I'll keep going. That's fine. Niklas, could it happen again that some kind of rocket parts fall on Earth again, as some weeks ago? So this is launching from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, which is far inland. It is thousands of kilometers from the nearest ocean. And the first stage will be, this is not a Long March 5. It's not going to reach orbit. The first stage, I should say, is not going to reach orbit. Like the Long March 5B did when they launched the Tianhe-1 module a couple months ago. That created a sort of an international hubbub when the first stage's core booster achieved orbital velocity, and okay, they have a countdown clock there. Looks like I am less than 10 seconds off, so I'll deal with that when I'm not talking. But yeah, so what happened was the core stage booster entered an elongated orbit, and it ended up deorbiting a few days later over the Indian Ocean, near the Maldives. I'm sorry. But there were no injuries or damage that I'm aware of from that. But it was a big fuss because, in fact, they don't have any method. They did not build into the system a means by which to conduct a controlled deorbit. But the Long March 2F is a different launch vehicle. The first stage will not be achieving orbital velocity. It's a much smaller vehicle, and well, not much smaller, but anyway, it's a smaller vehicle, and the first stage will be crashing down somewhere east of the launch site, somewhere hundreds of kilometers to within 1,000 kilometers east of the launch site. Now, China has been working on a sort of parachute system to control or semi-control the descent of the first stage, so that they can better ensure that it comes down in an unpopulated area. But yeah. I don't know if that system is implemented on this rocket, on this launch. there will be no big bada booms today. Well, I suppose every rocket launch is a big bada boom, but not a big bada boom. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and defer to the live coverage, the official coverage. But thank you all for coming. If you have any additional questions, go ahead and ask them in the chat. But I may or may not have the answers, or maybe I can look them up for you. But again, thanks for coming. Enjoy the show, and Godspeed to these three intrepid taikonauts. Bye for now.
Climate change all the time, and cloud covering and oceans. And you can see a lot of the stars. In outer space, there's no atmosphere, so you see the galaxy more clearly.
Yeah.
So there are many things to do on board. And then you can receive emails and communication with the ground crews. And they're also installed some education programs that you teach the crowd, the young generations. So you can always hear some of the communications on the background. Is still double checking the system workings, in particular for the TTNC systems. Once the rocket launched, we have to keep a 24/7 eye on the capsule. So make sure that everything goes well. So they have to do all the checkings and double checks, and you can see the veterans and the astronauts. They're in a relaxed position. Their leg are not folded as for the landing purpose, because the position they're sitting is like a baby sitting position that can tolerate the maximum G-force that they can experience. So they have to sit in a particular designed seat in the right position.
I'm hearing words. I'm sorry. I'm hearing words that our correspondent Nie Hong is with us now. He is very near the launch site. Nie Hong, if you're with me, what are you seeing now? What are you hearing now?
Hello. Well, we're now on the rooftop of a building that's about 1.5 kilometers away from the launch pad. You can see that launch pad there is very close, and this is the closest location that you could get while watching the launch. And we're now about still over 1 hour before the launch, and you can see the rocket is still covered by the rotating support platform. But from afar, you can see there's a pointing head above the launch pad. That is the abortion tower that you could see. And now the three astronauts are inside the capsule, and also we've just learned that the gate of the orbiter has closed. So it means that all the checks of the astronauts has completed. And as we're approaching the 1 hour countdown, the all system will go through another round of check. This will be a overall check about the conditions of the rocket, about the spaceship, and also about the entire launch field. And then you will see that these launch pads will open one by one until you can see the entire rocket. And as we're approaching a 30 minutes countdown, you could the people working on the launch pad will begin to evacuate. It will take them about 15 minutes to evacuate. And the last group of people working on the launch pad will evacuate in the 15 minutes countdown, and then we'll be expecting the launch very soon. And you can see that this is a very ideal weather, clear weather with minor wind. So yeah, we're all expecting this in very soon.
All right, thanks so much.
东风，我是景山。
我是东风，景山，请讲。
景山，预置指令已发出。
东风明白。
Some are used in for other material. You know that because we have the telemetry data emitted from the spacecraft, so we need a window. We can the microwave can penetrate the window, and the ground stations can receive these signals to check if everything is okay.
All right. The drill is so important because there are so many instruments and gadgets on board of the space station. There's over, I think it's over 1,200 instruments on just in the core module of that. So what about, how could they prevent, how could we prevent those astronauts from, mistakenly touching some button and make the disaster?
Usually, you see that besides the control panels, which can be operated by the astronauts, we also have telemetry data from all instruments, no exception. So we have we're monitoring the status of every instrument.
Oh, there you see, they are closing the hatch.
Yes,
the hatch.
The payload fairing. The ground staff are just sealing the panel on the payload fairing.
They're sealing the hatch now.
So after this moment, if anything wrong happens, they will use the emergency escape system.
Now they cannot just get out of this door by themselves.
How effective is that escape tower? Has that been ever tested with human?
This what you mentioned, the things happened during the missions of the former Soviet Union. Never happened in China.
China's space mission.
Yeah. They do rescue the lives of some astronauts. Even just maybe the year before last, during the launch of the Soyuz MS-10, because during the separation of the boosters, one of the boosters collided with the core stage. So this is a very serious malfunction, and the emergency escape worked. So the two astronauts, one from Russia and one from U.S., were escaped from the rocket and have an emergency landing. So that's happened just in recent years.
But we have to mention that the Long March 2F is a very reliable rocket. It has a very good tracking record. It has launched 14 times with 14 successful launches and 0 failures. So overall, the reliability is quite good there.
But the Long March 2F is still using a toxic propellant, as you just mentioned. That
exactly,
is,
toxic and corrosive.
Why can they just change into the more environment-friendly propellant?
As we have discussed,
the
the Long March 7 has a potential capability to become a human-rated launch vehicle, but we still need some improvement. For instance, we should add the malfunction detection system and also the emergency escape system to this rocket. So if that improvement has been done, it can be used as a human-rated launch vehicle to launch, as we discussed, the new generation spaceship, to launch 6 to 7 astronauts to our station.
I think the simple answer is safety. It's more safe to use the conventional fuel because the number of times you flow, the Long March has flown more than 300 times. It's a reliable engine. New generations are new engines. So it's full reliability that we use the conventional fuel to increase the safety of the launch vehicle.
And we're hearing something going on in the comm system. What do you think they are going through right now? What kind of
the chief commander, that's the launch is not only a task of the launch vehicle and the spaceship, but a huge system, including the launch site system, the telemetry and the tracking system, and other systems. So the chief commander must check if everything is okay, including the space tracking ships and the rescue teams. You know that during the launch, if some emergency case happened, we also have rescue teams along the downrange of the rocket and also even in the sea. We have a rescue fleet. So in some cases, maybe the spaceship will splash down in the Yellow Sea. So we have a rescue team. So they must also be checked. Their status is okay for the launch. And also the weather condition, the wind is also a very considerable factor to decide whether we should perform the launch or not.
So these tracking teams, they're all over the country, right? In Beijing?
Not all the country, but just along the downrange of the rocket, the ground track. And also we have a space tracking.
there's a spaceship. Sorry, there's a vessel in the water tracking.
Exactly, the rescue
program.
fleet, a rescue fleet, and also we have space tracking ship, the Yuanwang space tracking ship. At some critical point, you know that today the Tianlian data really satellite have a 100% coverage, 100% coverage for all the flights of the Shenzhou spaceship. But still, in some critical point, we need some ground support, such as the ground stations in Weinan, in Qingdao, along the track of the Long March 2F. And during the separation of the Shenzhou spaceship and the end stage, we also have Yuanwang space tracking ship to monitoring and also gather data, such as the videos from the cameras mounted on the spacecraft.
Well, tell us more about the relay satellites, what we need to Tianlian relay satellites, and I think many other countries are still using their own relay satellites to establish this kind of communication between the spacecraft, the people on the spacecraft, and the ground controller. So why we need that kind of a satellite? How does it work?
Even with the help of our stations outside China, in other countries, the coverage of the okay, T-minus 2 hours countdown. So still some check-ins were performing.
They're still collecting the data.
Yes, exactly.
We're actually about a little more than 1 hour to go. It's T-minus 1 hour and 9 minutes. That's the countdown clock from the control team.
Yeah, they're just still collecting the data from 2 hours ago and to make some analysis.
So the commander is asking different part of the mission, different system, if they are in okay.
And once the astronauts are up there, how will the waste be managed?
Yes, it will be put it back to the cargo ship.
Oh, and then?
And then it will be dropped back to Earth and disintegrate during the re-entry process.
And about space debris, what's been done to manage those?
Oh yes, you asked a very good question. I mean, Professor Yang mentioned there what we call system engineering. There are 7 or 8 systems that we combine into one mission. He mentioned about the ground launch site. That's one system.
Yep.
Fuelings and everything. And TTNC, that's another system for communications and trackings. Life support is one system. Launch vehicle is a system, and space station is one system. So when you talk about space debris, there are more than 100,000 registered space debris in outer space that's circling at a very high velocity, and we have to build a model of this space debris, their orbit, their size, and their speed, so that to avoid the whole process of launching and docking on rendezvous to meet up with the space debris. And sometimes we have to conduct maneuvers to avoid the space debris if it's a passive one. So space debris is one major issue, a major concern of the manned missions. So we have modulated already all the space debris, and we're working with the international community to manage the space debris. And in the future, we also came up with the idea of space traffic management, where you have all the spacecraft operated by different operators, like, for example, Starlink. They have tens of thousands of satellites.
Yeah.
And that also causes concern in the future. You know, whether you have a very crowded outer space, and for human activity is very dangerous. And we can see a lot of movies like Gravities, the space station was destroyed by space debris. So that is not a threat. That's a real threat. It's not just speculations. So space debris is very important for human missions.
And one of our mission this time for the space station is to verify the robotic arms of that has been equipped on the space missions to core module. And how can we use the robotic arms? Can we use that to defend some of that, flying?
No, because you know that's the relative velocity or the combined velocity between the debris and spacecraft is more than several kilometers per second. So you cannot have the reaction time. The only thing you can do, as Yan Song has mentioned, is to have just a prediction and evaluate the probability of the collision. And then if we have a threshold, if the probability comes higher than the threshold, we will have an orbital maneuver to avoid the collision between our spacecraft and the debris. And today, the reduction of the debris is a very big issue in our space field. For instance, for the rocket, the end stage, we will do a lot of special procedures. For instance, we must leak off all the remaining propellants, and then we discharge all the electricity inside the batteries, and also release all the gas in the high pressure tanks. All these things we do is to avoid the explosion of the end stage in the orbit, to avoid the production of more debris. So we've already done this. This has become a very common and routinary procedure for all carrier rockets. And also, as Yansong had mentioned, the rubbish and the waste we put inside the Tiangong 2 cargo ship. After its mission, it will be deorbited and re-entry in the South Pacific Ocean. We have an area in this South Pacific with the diameter more than 2,000 kilometers. There even no any island in this area.
Yeah.
So it's very safe. No one will be harmed during the re-entry. Because either the Tiangong spaceship and other things we should perform this controlled re-entry is too big, and the debris cannot be burned out during the process. So maybe some pieces will drop onto the ocean surface.
That's right.
It's very important you mentioned that, because there are concerns from people that these...
In the beginning of the May, some articles are talking about a re-entry of the Long March 5B's core stage. That coming back, they use the words uncontrolled re-entry. What do you think of that?
That's not a big program. You see that although the core stage, yes, it's very big, but you know that it's not made for thermal protection. So all the parts, more than 90% will be burned out during the re-entry. Only some very, very small parts, for instance, some of the nozzles of the rocket engines, maybe that can have a very high thermal protection with resist the high temperature during the re-entry. But these are only very small parts. The other thing is the coverage. You know that the probability of landing, hitting something on the ground, the possibility is very low. You know that more than 70% of the ocean, of the Earth's surface is covered by the oceans, yes. And even on the land, only a small portion is populated. So it is not very serious. Usually, no one will be harmed during this re-entry.
What do you think, Mr. Xu?
Well, I think it was a common practice in the international community, in particularly in the space sector.
That's right.
That we use passivation technology.
And especially for the insider of the space to know this is going to happen.
Yeah, we know that the final stage is going to be burned up in outer space during the re-entry. But this one is particularly bigger.
Yeah.
Bigger cause concern, but bigger.
5 meters diameter.
5 meter and about 20 metric tons. But that also used materials like aluminum that can easily burn up during the re-entry process. It was a common practice not to control the final. It's part of the rocket. It's not the space objects. So it's the final stage of the rocket. We do passivations in case of fragmentation in our orbit. Creating more orbits, space debris. But during re-entry, we normally don't control. But in the coming missions, for the 2 extended arms of the Chinese mission, we are doing some improvement so that we have more or less a controlled re-entry to the designated areas rather than uncontrolled completely.
And here's another question about living in space. It's going to be a 3-bedroom suite for them, right? Up there in the space station with one bathroom?
No, it's going to be just 3 sleeping bags.
Oh, how will they take showers then?
Oh, shower and bathroom, they're going to use that same facility. There's no actual showers that you can experience in outer space, just the sponges, yes.
Just sponge bath.
Just use towels to rub their skin. This is more efficient at saving the water. You know that they do have a shower during the Skylab missions, but not very usually it's recognized as a waste of water. So during the missions after the Skylab one, no this kind of things happened. So just use the towel to rub your skin and that's already good enough for cleaning.
I mean,
for
everything
hygiene.
is so different when you're in space. Even working out is different. You mentioned there will be treadmills, there will be space bikes, but it's going to be different, right? Doing it.
It's a little
in
bit
space.
different for the
Because you're
training.
floating in
And
a
also,
microgravity
yes,
environment.
usually they have a so-called penguin suits. The penguin suits have some pressure on your body to force your blood to go downside. So, as Yansong had mentioned, your tongue will feel very
Swollen.
different because of that the redistribution of your blood on your body because you know that in our daily life we are underground influenced by the gravity. So we
don't even notice that.
Our cardiovascular system has the mechanism to make the blood go upside. But without the gravity, still this works to make the redistribution of your blood to upward. So you will feel something different.
So what does the penguin suit, the Qiufu you mentioned, do to your body? Does it?
So it
You're
has
gonna
negative
some kind of
pressure.
pressure?
Negative pressure on your legs. So it will redistribute, force the blood to go downside, like on the Earth. But that's not very convenient. So they will not wear this suit in all the time.
All right, you're now watching CGTN's special coverage of China's Shenzhou 12-man mission. This is the 1 hour countdown, 1 hour left before the launch of the spacecraft. Crew members have already entered the capsule, and in final preparations, there you have the ground command.
各号注意，1小时准备。
T minus 59 minutes 44 seconds, getting extremely close to liftoff.
明白。酒泉。明白。先生。
And there's going to be another mission. It's the skywalk. I think so. Mr. Liu is going to walk outside of the capsule, and why they need, but I've been told that the 3 astronauts need to work together to carry out this spacewalk, right?
Yes, that this time is quite different from our Shenzhou 7 mission. This time we have a robotic arm. So Mr. Liu Boming also mentioned yesterday during the news release conference.
That's right.
So the robotic arm can move along this core module, and in some cases it will help the astronauts. So the astronaut will stand on one end of the robotic arm after they go outside the hatch. So the robotic arm can, but it should be operated by one astronaut inside. So 2 astronauts go outside for the EVA, one stay inside to operate the robotic arm and move to the right place for them.
So what they're going to use the robotic arms to? They're going to move what?
Yes, it can. So the robotic arm have different mechanism on the top. Some can fix the feet of the astronauts. Some can also fix on some adapters on along the station. So there are multiple adapters along the Tiangong 1, and the robotic arm have the similar adapter on both ends. So if one end connected to an adapter, the other end can move to another one, and then one by one just move along the surface of the station.
And
some of the equipments are external. You have to go outside to fix and to mount.
Exactly.
And there's also a construction of the station that you need the robotic arm to work to move the segments from the front docking position to the permanent location. So all of these are what need robotic arm to work. And external EVA with robotic will be more efficient rather than just holding with your hand.
The China Manned Space Agency has already announced the standard interface outside the station. So including those in foreign countries, if they want to perform an experiment on China station, outside the station, they must follow these standards. So with this standard, it can help these applicants to making their instruments, and then it will be brought by the cargo ship to our station, then put outside the station. Maybe, as Yansong had mentioned, by a EVA of the astronauts, mount these instruments outside the station.
But before those tasks can happen, they're going to have to perform rendezvous and docking with the Tiangong core module, right? But when will Shenzhou 12 dock with Tianhe? I mean, there's not much information about it in the press conference
After
yesterday.
this launch, maybe 6 hours or so, the Shenzhou 12 will rendezvous and dock. It has 2 phases. The long distance, the long range guidance, and the short range. So the long range guidance will from several thousand kilometers to about 52 kilometers away from the station, and then it will dock automatically to the station.
All right, and during the launching process, ensuring the safety of the astronauts is a top priority. There's a crucial part of the capsule that can protect the astronauts if anything goes wrong. And our Nie Hong is with us. Less than 1 hour to go. Nie Hong, what is the mood like there?
Well, now we're in 1 hour countdown, and there's a loudspeaker here on this rooftop that broadcasting on and on, telling people in this launch field about the progress of the system check that is going on. And from what we know, that all system is in good condition. And we can see that there are 4 levels of rotating platform. But currently, only the top level has opened, revealing a pointing head of the rocket. That is the abort tower, which is prepared for a very unique feature for rockets that carry the manned spaceships, because its function is to, in time of emergency, to help astronauts to escape from the rocket. And in 3 seconds, this abort tower will bring the astronauts away from the launch pad to a place where about 1.5 kilometers away, and then the parachutes will open and the astronauts will safely land. That's prepared for in time of emergency, while the abort tower will be functional between 900 seconds before the launch and 120 seconds after the launch while the rocket is lifting off. And also what we're expecting here is that these rotating platforms will open one by one. And a new update is that people helping to maintain the manned spaceship has left the launch pad, which means that while all preparations inside the spacecraft Shenzhou 12 has completed, and now the astronauts could communicate with all systems independently. And also, what we are expecting now is that we're approaching 30 minutes countdown. Then people now working at the launch pad will begin to evacuate, and it will take them about 15 minutes to complete evacuation. And then it will enter the ignition phase. And we are all expecting this moment because it is really an honor to be here to witness the history. And from this moment on, there will be astronauts heading out from this launch site, routinely heading for China's space station, which is a really, really good progress.
Yeah, that's the moment we've been waiting for, entering a new era, the space station era, isn't it? Thanks so much, Nie Hong, joining us live on the launch site.
Well, talking about a skywalk, Mr. Yan, I think, will those astronauts been harmed by the cosmic radiation? I mean, the radiation belt was just 600 kilometers above the ground, which just means it's just 200 kilometers higher than their orbits. And that radiation belt is not evenly distributed. And some parts of that belt has been fallen down, probably has been drowning into the orbit where the Tianhe is orbiting.
You are correct, but you know that the EVA usually performs at most maybe 5 to 6 hours. So although, as you mentioned, the South Pacific region, the South Atlantic Ocean, this has an abnormal distribution of the magnetic field, so the radiation may be lower down than this Euro level, and usually the astronaut maybe feel some flares on their retinas. So this shows that the radiation, the dose increased in this region. But usually, you know that the orbit, the spacecraft, the station orbiting the Earth, 1.5 hours each time. So usually we only stay a very small portion in this area. So that will not have a very serious influence to the astronauts. And the 6 hours, you are correct. And this 6 hours EVA, it will have more radiation than inside the station because no protection of the the cabin is made of metal, so that's provide a very good protection from the radiation. But the EVA, so they cannot stay there for longer times. And you know that the Earth is the low Earth orbit station is protected by the magnetic field of the Earth. So in the future, if we can walk on the moon, it will be a very different matter, because you know that is the moon is far from the magnetic field of the low Earth orbit. So if anything, if they have a burst of the sun's activities, we must dealing with this kind of issues to protect the lives of the astronauts.
So this is a very good point. If you're traveling from Earth to Mars, radiation is the biggest hazard so far. So you have to, design the spacecraft in such a way that you have your own gravity field or something. So otherwise, you're exposed to the strong radiation plasma from the sun, and you would not get to Mars safely. So it's not an easy job.
Exactly. Some of my colleagues from ESA, they have some study.
The European
they say
Space
that
Agency.
for the whole lifespan of the whole career of an astronaut, the total dose he or she received must no greater than 1,000 millisievert.
And that translates into how many hours of EVA?
That depends on the
roughly?
environment. If you stay in the low Earth orbit, maybe a very longer time, because in the low Earth orbit, as Yang Zhao has mentioned, the radiation is not so serious. But if outside the low Earth, far from beyond the low Earth orbit, such as a lunar mission, even in a lunar base, or
they're
the
going
missions
through
to
the
Mars.
radiation belt.
So there are some things that maybe with traditional propulsion system, chemical propulsion system, we need more than 1.5 years to go to Mars and go back. So maybe during this process, if you don't have a very good protection for the astronauts, maybe it's not feasible. So also there are some saying that we should perform a Mars mission within maybe 1 or 2 months with the help of nuclear reactors. With the nuclear engines, maybe it can be much more faster. So we can go to the Mars maybe within 1 or 2 months and then go back.
So the station, which is 400 kilometers above the Earth, is still relatively safe and still in the magnetic field. Even the moon is still part of it, still in the magnetic field protection areas of the Earth. So the solar wind and solar system doesn't affect too much. But once you're outside of the, lunar Earth says lunar areas, you would be exposed to solar radiations. But 400 kilometers is the altitude that is designed for relative safety and for efficiency.
So like you said, 400 kilometers, the Shenzhou 12 space ship will be heading to that orbit, also will be at the height of about 400 kilometers.
Yep.
How difficult is it to dock and rendezvous in orbit at such a height?
Docking rendezvous takes a lot of challenges. As Professor Yang mentioned, there are long distance alignment and short distance alignment, and also automated dockings and fast dockings. There are many systems that we have already tried out during the previous Shenzhou missions. So the space station itself, in fact, flips itself and ready for the docking, and the final alignment will take some time before the real touching is on. We have done lots of simulations on the ground. We use floating devices to simulate the docking and rendezvous. So it's relatively safe, as we also had a number of experiences in the past with Tiangong 1 and Tiangong 2 missions. So docking and rendezvous has been made very easy at this moment. So we're expecting that to happen in 6 or 7 hours, just before we have dinner in Beijing. We expect them to dock with the ship and starting to entering the Tianhe capsule.
And it said that it's going to be a fast automated docking. I mean, what factors do they have to consider when deciding when to dock? You mentioned about 6 to 7 hours after they are in space. I have learned that one of the consideration is the space sickness. Usually,
Exactly. That is called space motion sickness. This is because you know that we have organ inside our in our ears to sense our altitude and our position. So we get used to the situation on the ground with the gravity. But when we go out into outer space with the microgravity environment, the organ will be confused, and also there are some reflection to our body. So that is called the sickness. And this happens usually after 6 hours after you come into the orbit, and disappear after 2 days in the orbit. So that is the reason, one of the reasons we perform the docking in the past missions after 2 days go into space, because at that moment the space motion sickness has already, the astronaut feel better at that moment. If anything wrong happened, they are in a good condition to perform the manual docking. And today with faster and rendezvous and docking, you know that already usually in 6 hours. So at this period, the space motion sickness has not happened, so they can perform the docking. Well, concerning the docking, you know that we China adopt APAS, or androgynous peripheral attached system. With this system, it can dock of the two very large spacecrafts.
I'm sorry to jump in here. It is 8:37 a.m. Beijing time. We are about 45 minutes to go till liftoff, so it's T-minus 45 now. You're watching the live picture of the re-entry module. The Long March 2F rocket and the Shenzhou 12 spacecraft is set to ferry these 3 Chinese astronauts to the country's newly built but not yet fully completed space station. The launch takes place at this remote military-operated spaceport we're seeing in northwest China called Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. The launcher and the crew capsule has already been put together. Everything is all set, waiting to launch.
Yeah, and Mr. Xu, how does this manned spacecraft dock with the core modules? Is there any differences between the earlier Tianzhou cargo ship docking procedure?
Well, Tiangong is docking on the rear end of the Tianhe station, so it doesn't have to adjust the attitude of the Tianhe, but the Tianhe has to be flipped to get the adapter ready for the rendezvous and docking of the Tiangong, the Shenzhou mission.
Space.
So the Shenzhou spaceship has to travel and chase up with the station at a relatively higher speed, and then at the final 30 or 40 meters, it will be slowed down and using lots of alignment systems like laser alignment and also geographic. Graphic alignment systems, so that all of these are aligned, and then they will slowly dock with the station. It's similar to the previous missions that we have already experienced. In particular, the Shenzhou 11 and the Tiangong 2 has many fast dockings and manned maneuver docking. So we have backup plans. If that one automated doesn't work, we will have another man-controlled dockings. But these are all, this time it's going to be controlled by the ground and automated system rather than human-controlled docking rendezvous.
So,
Yeah, and Mr. Yan, you earlier just mentioned the space station have 2 berths for the manned spacecraft and another 2 for experimental modules. Can you just explain a little bit on that kind of design?
Yes, you know that from this model we can see that on the front of the node we have a docking port. With the docking port we have multiple devices, such as, for instance, we have the transponder of the microwave radar. You know that the microwave radar is mounted on the orbital module of the Shenzhou spaceship. It can measure the relative distance, relative velocity, and also relative attitude between the 2 vehicles. And also this radar can act as a communication link between the 2 vehicles. And besides that, we can also have a LiDAR and optical sensors for the docking system. So you can see that the docking system is very, very complex to measure the relative parameters between the 2 vehicles to ensure the safety. But for the berthing port, all these are omitted to be simplified. And you know that we only need to connect the two modules together with the berthing port as the experimental module as the permanent part of this station. So it's different.
all right, 8:40 a.m. here in Beijing. We're less than 45 minutes to go till launch. I want to go back to my colleague Li Dongning here in the studio to look at other stories making headlines around the world once again. Dongning.
Thank you very much, Yuan. Now let's go to Geneva again, where a day-long summit between the presidents of Russia and the United States wrapped up early on Wednesday. And on the agenda was everything from cybersecurity and human rights to the environment. Although both agreed progress was made over diplomats returning to their posts, stark differences still remain over a host of other issues, including China. Now, Tony Waterman tells us more from Geneva.
President Biden struck a realistic but optimistic tone at the end of this meeting. He said his talks with the Russian president were good, that they were positive, and that there were no threats issues. This is really echoing what we heard from Mr. Putin himself, who called these talks constructive. This is notable because even until the very last moments, there was concern.
报注意，收集1小时准备情况。0号。
1小时准备完毕。
太原。
1小时准备完毕。
渭南。
1小时准备完毕。
青岛。
1小时准备完毕。
天津。
1小时准备完毕。
酒泉。
1小时准备完毕。
青山。
1小时准备完毕。
双城。
1小时准备完毕。
5号。
1小时准备完毕。
天仓。
1小时准备完毕。
北京东风报告。
我是北京，东风请讲。
东风各号1小时准备完毕。东风报告完毕。
北京明白。东风，我是北京。
东风到。
全区各号1小时准备完毕，30分钟准备，及以后口令由你下达。
东风明白。
Oh, well, is that okay?
It's very close to see the whole rockets coming out of this.
Yeah.
So the final part that we're going to be open is the fairing part where they contain the astronaut itself. So they have to keep that part closed as for the last moment.
Yeah, there you see the 3 astronauts. I think they're closing their eyes. They're resting for a bit.
Yeah.
Well, once they're up there, they will be away for a long time. They're 3 months. Do they get to call their family, maybe video chat? Do they have the chance to do that?
They have a communication with the ground, but they, remember that they are circling around the Earth in a high speed, so their overpassing time is kind of limited, in particular to the Chinese territory. But they're using the communication to have video talks with their family members. But I'm sure that will be part of the scene that we're going to see in the future. Video communications and emails are routine. Of course, they can send data packages through the Tianlian and other system that is operational in orbit 24/7. But for video communications, it takes some bigger bandwidth and would take some time limitations when they're overpassing.
And usually, what kind of personal belongings can these astronauts bring with them?
Exactly. Yesterday, during the
press
news conference,
yes.
The reporters asked the question to Mr. Judge Nie Haisheng, asked what belongings he take, and he mentioned that he will show these during his mission in space. Very interesting. And you know that during the missions in ISS before, usually they take some cameras. You know that the most favorite entertainment for the astronauts is not like the Earth. The most enjoyable things for them is to observing the beautiful views of the Earth. You know that there is a module inside the ISS called Cupola. Cupola has 7 very huge windows to view the Earth. So it is the most favorite part for all astronauts there. In their spare time, they will stay there, enjoy the view, and also sometimes taking photos. Mr. Hatfield, the Canadian astronauts, also take photos of the Beijing. and he sent that photo to me. And also I took photos of the ISS. So we took photos of each other with a distance of more than 400 kilometers. So that's a very interesting experience.
Well, is there any
Incredible.
windows on the China's space station?
No, Chris Hadfield about the ISS.
ISS.
He has a chance to take photos of Beijing.
I think we do have windows on the re-entry module. Once the fairing departure, you can see light from that small window.
Yes, several years before, the CMSA also released some videos taken by Mr. Yang Liwei during his Shenzhou 5 missions, the beautiful view of the Earth. You may notice from this video that although most of the rotational platforms are open, that still there are some arms still connected or attached near the launch vehicle, because with still some cables and some pipes connected to the launch vehicle. We have signals, we have electricity supplies to the vehicle at this moment.
And they will be detached, I guess, when we get extremely close.
When near the launch time, the arms will also be opened.
So here is the final countdown, 30 minutes countdown. That is the command control announcing that T minus 30.
So you just have 30 minutes to go.
So 11 missions overall for the construction of China's space station, 4 manned missions, 4 cargo missions, and 3 module launches. And we've already got the Tianhe core module and the Tianzhou cargo ship up there. The complex has been running in orbit for some time now. What kind of tasks have they been performing since in orbit?
You have already mentioned the Tianzhou 2. You know that today Tianzhou 2 is already attached to the station on the, as Yan Song have mentioned, on the docking port on the rear part. But after left the Shenzhou 12 mission, the Tianzhou 2 will first detached and then dock to the front part, because you know that we have refueling system both on the docking ports on the front part and the rear part. So we must check everyone. So the Tianzhou 2 is very important, not only because this, but we will also have other critical.
All right, there you see another level of retractable platform. I think that's the level 2, a correction there, yeah. Level 2 retractable platform being rolled back. You will soon see the stage 2 rocket.
And we're about to see the fairing?
No,
Yeah, the
that's
fairing will be the last
that's
one.
going to happen
Will be the
in
last
the
one.
end. Yes,
And
that's the stage.
we just hear
3.
about evacuation order, I thought, from the controller.
Yes, we just now we already heard from the commander, the chief commander, to check if they have mentioned the Qingdao station, the ground station, and also Huashan means the Weinan station. All these stations will monitoring the flight and also receiving the telemetry data from the launch vehicle. So these stations must be checked if the ground stations, the antennas are okay for this mission, and then it can continue.
Yeah, there you see the second stage rocket.
Dr. Yang, just tell us more about this, the second stage of the
when
Long March
does it
2F.
kick in?
The Long March 2F, as I have mentioned,
have
the
a special
second stage
design
is the end stage. It will go into the same orbit of the Shenzhou 12 spaceship. The diameter is 3.35 meters, and it is a little bit shorter than the first stage, and it only have 1 engine. The one engine is the
They got
vacuum
4
version.
yeah.
The vacuum version of the same engine on the first stage.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There you see they are finally opening the last retractable platform, revealing the spacecraft. And soon you can see 2 Chinese characters on the spacecraft, making it different. I mean, on the rocket, making it different from other ones, called Shenzhen, the divine arrow, right?
Yeah.
That was named after, that was named by the former president Jiang Zemin
Yes.
in 2003, I guess.
Exactly.
After
Now
the
we can
Shenzhou 5
see
mission.
the payload fairing.
That's right. It's clear to see the fairing and
Yeah,
the escape tower on top
yeah.
of that.
And of course, the payload this time is the Shenzhou 12 spacecraft.
Yes.
You may notice 4 grid fins on the payload fairing.
Yeah.
What are they?
So
The
during
grid
the
fin, the grid fin.
emergency escape, the grid
A little
fins will be
tube.
deployed to adjust the aerodynamic forces on the body to make it stable. So that's a usage of this great wing.
Is that the same thing that we can use? We can see on those reusable rockets when they're coming back to?
Exactly. So the great fins can rotate its axis to adjust, but this one is a fixed one because the only usage of this great fin is to just to stable the space the craft if it is emergency escape. But for the, as you mentioned, for some rockets, including some small launchers in China, we use it's not a great fin, but a great rubber. So it can rotate with its axis, and it can adjust the attitude of the launch vehicle.
There you have the close-up shot of the spacecraft again, a 3-module spacecraft. You've got the orbital module where astronauts work, eat, and sleep. That orbital module is the living area, and you've got the re-entry module. That is where the astronauts are sitting in. The re-entry module is located in the midsection of the spacecraft and contains seating for the crew. It is the only portion, there you have it. This is the only portion of the Shenzhou which returns to Earth's surface. Well, its shape is a compromise between maximizing living space and allowing for some aerodynamic control upon re-entry. And lastly, you've got the service module, which contains life support and other equipment required for functioning of Shenzhou. You've also got 2 pairs of solar panels which will deploy once they are in space.
Yes. And talking about reusable, it's a new trend that all the rocket engineering is seeking for in the next phase, especially after the SpaceX launched their Falcon series. And in last September, China also announced that Long March 2F rocket has been successfully delivered reusable experimental spacecraft into the orbit. Is that going to be the same spacecraft this time?
Not like this. You know that we use a different version, like the version launched the Tiangong 1 and the Tiangong 2 laboratory. The difference is that because during what you mentioned, the mission, we don't have astronauts on board, so we don't need the emergency escape system. So it used a quite different payload fairing. The payload fairing for launching the Tiangong 1 and Tiangong 2, the diameter of the payload fairing is 4.2 meters, the second largest in China. The most largest is those used in the Long March 5B. The payload fairing, the diameter is 5.2 meters. The payload fairing used for this Shenzhou spacecraft is 3.8 meters, just the third largest in China. Because you know that the Shenzhou spaceships, the diameter is smaller than the Tiangong laboratories, so we don't need the larger ones. And because you know that we have emergency escape tower, because of this, the capability of the version used for launching spaceship is only about 8.1 tons. But for the other version you mentioned, launching the reusable spacecraft and for launching the Tiangong 1 and Tiangong 2, the capability can reach to 8.6 tons. A little bit bigger because the emergency escape system is omitted for these kind of missions.
Once again, a great view of the Long March 2F rocket you're watching. It's specifically designed to launch the crewed Shenzhou spacecraft into orbit. And it has another name, as we mentioned, called Shenzhen or Divine Arrow. It is a human-rated 2-stage rocket. It has 4 strap-on boosters. As you can see from afar, those boosters are at the bottom. Long March 2F rocket has never failed a single launch, and today is going to be its 15th launch, taking these 3 astronauts to the newly built Chinese space station.
And now you're watching this the Long March 2F rocket, which is about 58 meters high and 497 tons. And the Long March 2F is what has been called as 2.5 stage rocket. It consists of 2 3.35 meter diameter core stages and 4 2.25 meters diameter side booster, just as Mr. Yang introduced. It has 4 main engines. Each of them can generate 75 tons of thrusts. And don't forget the side boosters, which could also provide some extra 75 ton thrust to each. So we combine them together, so over 600 tons thrust will be produced to power the rocket to launch off, allowing the Long March 2F to deliver some 8 tons of payload into the orbit over 200 kilometers above our head.
And any upgrades to this Shenzhou 12 spacecraft that worth noting?
Of course, there are some improvements. You know that during the former missions, the Shenzhou spacecraft it docked to the Tiangong laboratories. It only needs to stay there up to 1 month.
Yes.
But this time, the
3
routine
months.
retrieve will be half a year. So the Shenzhou spaceship will stay there in what we call a hibernation mode. In this mode, most of the instruments on board the station, on board the spaceship will be shut down. But it must, we have discussed, to evaluate the influence of radiation to all these instruments to make everything is correct. Just before leaving, to go back, so the Shenzhou spaceship is to wake up from the hibernation mode and check every instrument is okay. And to fit this, we also have some improvement. For instance, the outside of the re-entry capsule, we have a different material covering the re-entry capsule, and also some configuration inside the Shenzhou space is also modified. For instance, we usually use water tanks on the in the orbital module in the former missions, but this time we only use some small bags because you know that we will go to the station and not necessary to have a big water tank.
Yeah.
So this can save a large amount of the mass, and we can have more some cargoes to this in this orbital module.
And also, we're going to have the regenerates the life supporting system in the core.
No. For the Shenzhou spaceship, because
Sorry,
it's only
20 minutes to go. That's a countdown. Just wanted to mention that to our
Yes.
viewers. Go ahead, Professor.
You know that the Shenzhou spaceship can only fly independently for several days. So not necessary to have a regenerative support, life support system. Only inside the station we use this kind of system because it also occupies a large volume and also have a very large amount of mass.
Mr. Xu, any insight about China's own reusable rockets?
Oh yes, we're doing. We're seeing a lot of international, especially SpaceX. They're doing a great job with the reusable launch vehicles, and they even recover some of the fairings. It's good stuff. I think what China is trying to do is that we have a state-owned enterprise that is working on reusable launching system. What we're currently using is what we call expendable launch vehicle. So that's going to be for single launch. And because of the toxic materials and the engine technology, we do not reuse those engines. The SpaceX engine is part of, in fact, the space shuttle engine. It's got Mullins. It's in fact designed for reuse. So we have two running parallel teams. That one is from the state-owned enterprise that is developing this technology, and the others are commercial sectors. We see a lot of newcomers from the commercial sectors. They're doing
startups are doing their own.
Yes, the startups are doing a good job in experimenting this technology. I think it's a good beginning, but currently we're still in the process of expendable launch vehicle because of the manufacturing capacity we have. We're able to cope with the Chinese space program on that perspective, but we're doing this on commercial basis for reusable launch vehicle.
Yeah, we do have seen some of the news coming out that China is doing a test on their reusable, but it seems like they used a different approach to come back from the Falcon from the SpaceX are adopting. What's the difference? They're using parachute or?
Yes, some of our testing are using as we have mentioned, the grid fins.
The grid fins,
grid
right.
fins to have at least have accurate falling point. So this can also save a lot of money. You know that the falling area usually is very, very big, very wide. And with this controlled re-entry, it can very precisely land it to a certain point.
Yeah. In the case of the SpaceX, they can even land on the sea platform.
And as you have mentioned, during the launch several days before in Xichang Satellite Center for the Long March 3B launch vehicle, we just tested the controlled parachute, which can also deploy during the falling and then control with some GNSS or the satellite navigation system. With the help, we can measure the position and then control the parachute to a certain point. So this is a different measure. There are multiple choices, still not determined for the future's reusable launch vehicle. But you know that just last year we have the maiden flight of the Long March 8 launch vehicle in Wenchang spacecraft launch site. This launch vehicle, in the future, the improved version will be a reusable one. We just have a maiden flight because this is a very economical launch vehicle designed for some commercial launches. It will be very competitive in prices, but in the future, if it can be reused, it will be even with an even cheaper price.
So it's all commercial based, and also reusable are less efficient because you have to put more fuels.
Yes, and that was also a trend that we can observe on Chinese market because before we think the space it's just the state owned. It's what the government can do. But now we see more and more private sectors have been involved in this, and also state-owned company are also participated, and they're developed their own type of the rocket and trying to put them into the commercial market.
I think it's a good thing to it's a good thing to compete with each other, and also rocket technology. Of course, there's our state-of-the-art technologies, and we need more newcomers to come and to compete with the market. And even domestically, we see a number of good startup companies that are doing great jobs in developing new rocket engines.
Yeah, I'm sorry to jump in here. It's 9:07 Beijing time. We are 15 minutes away from the launch. There you hear the call out, T-minus 15 minutes.
Yeah, the private market, the private space market, it seems to be it's a new and it's emerging market right here in China. And earlier, I have investigated some of this the private company in China's Jiuquan. There was many company right there, and also I think the company that Mr. Yan you work for have already got this the commercial rockets, right?
I come from a state company.
Yeah,
I am a satellite maker. I launched one of my satellite with a private company. They provide the launch services. You know that. Oh, okay. All the ground staff are called to withdraw from the launch pad.
You heard the command from the control center. All the ground staff needs to be evacuated right now, indicating it's a go for the launch. Things are entering the final stages.
So you can see almost all the rotational platform has been opened, so no need for the ground staff there. So they will leave. But still, as I mentioned, some arms are connected to the vehicle with the cables and pipes to have the telemetry and mirroring signals from the vehicle.
There, see the bus taking the ground staff away from the launch tower. They will retreat to safe zone, I guess at least 1.5 kilometers away from the launch pad.
Yes.
Well, last time in Wenchang, when China launches the core module, we see a lot of this ordinary people who comes to the beach to watch this the launching event. What about this time? Can the ordinary people come to Jiuquan to watch?
Yes. I've seen some posts on the social media in China. Some of private companies organize tourists to watch the launch.
The tour.
Yeah.
But you can speculate from a distance away, about a few kilometers.
Yeah.
You have mentioned the commercial or the private companies. It is very interesting that all the orbital launches attempt also performed in this Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. Two of them, including the Beijing Interstellar Glory and the Galactic Energy, performed their orbital launches successfully in China. So we now have two private companies which can provide these orbital launch services.
All right, 12 minutes to go till launch.
And talk about China's the private space market, and I also realized it was not just for the rocket, but also for satellites. The satellites is the big parts of the markets, right?
Yeah. There are more companies engaged in making satellites. You know, that's for launch services is really relatively complex. Not only you should have the ability to making the launch vehicles, but also there are many security issues. For instance, we've discussed about the falling area of the substages. We must dealing with these kind of issues. So this is more complex, and for the satellites is relatively easier. Especially, you know, that many universities in China has already have their own satellites. Some are even for the educational purposes. Even it's very interesting that there is some science outreach, science population satellites made by high school students. So this is also very interesting.
And will there be joint flights? Since you mentioned the commercial use of space flights, will there be joint flights of Chinese and foreign astronauts in the near future?
It is quite possible. During the announcement yesterday, the China Manned Space Agency, Mr. Ji Qiming, has mentioned the foreign astronauts are trained in China. Several years before, I can still remember that Ms. Samantha Christopher Ferretti were trained in Qingdao in the rescue training. And our astronaut Ye Guangfu also were trained in Europe in the cave training. So we have cooperations, and in the future, I believe that sooner or later we can see the foreign astronauts taking the Shenzhou spaceship to our station.
That was the big countdown clock on the screen you just saw there saying scheduled liftoff. We're less than 10 minutes away. You're seeing that huge rocket, Long March 2F right there, still attaching to the umbilical tower. And those umbilical cords are expected to be detached seconds, 40 seconds to 50 seconds ahead of launch.
So China's space station program has to involve so many partners from the international community, including the Europe Space Agency. And can you just tell us how we cooperated, and what fields we cooperated?
We have a close cooperation with Russia before.
Russia?
Our astronauts were trained in Russia during the 1990s.
So I just want to translate this to our viewers. There you see the monitoring screen. The temperature is 23.6 degrees Celsius. The wind direction is 2.2 meters per second. And there's also the visibility and humidity monitoring status there.
The commander has announced the accurate launch time, because the launch time is determined by the orbit of our Tiangong module.
And it's down to seconds, right? The launch time, exact launch time is 9:22:27 seconds.
Exactly.
The sky's clear today.
A good day for
a good day for launch.
And just show on the big screen in the control center that the wind speed is 2.7 meters, not very high speed. The air around the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center is very clear. Visibility can reach to 30 kilometers. Very good condition. If we are lucky enough, maybe we can see from the telescope, which can record the separation between the first stage and the second stage.
We should be able to see the strap-on boosters released from the ground.
Yes.
If we have a clear sky. See a bit of cloud, but should be able to see it on visible sites. This separation of the strap-on boosters.
And an escape tower has been activated about 5 minutes before the launch.
It's even longer.
It's a little longer
because you know that at this moment, if anything wrong happened, the emergency escape will work.
Well, so once the astronauts are in the capsule and the hatch is closed, then the escape tower is armed. So they're ready to go, shooting off.
Anytime. We're standing by.
There should be a safety plan at any minute. All the way to the station.
Many years before, during the development of the Shenzhou spaceship, Mr. Yuan Jiajun, who is also a former leader of China Manned Space Program, mentioned the first important test is the zero altitude escape test, which ignited the emergency escape tower from the ground.
From this position, yes.
And that went well. That was successful.
That was successful.
But the escape tower is not going to come all the way down to the orbit, right?
If the launch goes smoothly, the first critical action after the pitch over will be the jettisoning of the escape tower. Because in a certain altitude, the aerodynamic forces will be smaller than the liftoff in the low altitude, so no need for the escape tower. Then in a certain area, in a certain period, will depend on the escape engines, on the payload fairing. And after that, after fairing is jettisoned, so it's already in an almost vacuum condition, and if anything wrong happened, the spaceship can use its own engines to leave the launch vehicle.
So is this escape tower going to be ejected even before the booster?
Before the fairing?
Actually, it is the
Before
first
the booster,
separation.
yes.
Yeah.
So
The first
critical
separation will be the jettisoning of the escape tower happened about 2 minutes after launch.
We will see that in just a few moments. We're getting really close, a little more than 5 minutes to go till the final liftoff.
我是宁浩，收集15分钟，准备情况，先锋。
The astronauts are still, I think they're still watching their,
Flight manuals.
just reading their flight manual. They just need to repeat that again and again.
I wonder how they feel at this moment. I mean, going into space would be the lifetime dream for every astronaut, right? I guess there will be boundless joy for.
Is there any
everyone
other
of them.
instrument that has been connected on those on the body
Yes,
of those astronauts?
exactly.
Who,
So they will monitoring the parameter, the biological parameters of their body. It
You
will
can
be
see their
also
heart rate, respiration.
yeah.
status. Ah.
If they don't feel not better, we can stop the whole procedure to deal with that.
well,
In fact, we monitor this all the time.
that's right. I figure.
T-minus 5 minutes.
But from our early the figure can show that all of those astronauts has been well trained and they can keep pretty calm even before the launch.
Usually they are very calm during the launch.
They're really
Even
calm.
during any emergencies.
That's right.
Life-threatening emergencies. They're
You see,
trained
they
for
were
that.
still very relaxed in their postures, and now they're getting ready for the launching position. So they have folded their legs to their appropriate position. So even 5 minutes before, they were still, like relaxing.
That's right.
Checking their seat belts, checking
that-
their knee guards.
They're gonna put down everything and ready for the launch in 2 or 3 minutes.
And we're getting really close.
神舟12号。
That's the live image from the control center at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. There you see Vice Premier Han Zheng watching this launch among the audience. This is like picture coming from the Beijing Aerospace City. Vice Premier Han Zheng among other senior leaders and officials. There you see Central Military Vice Chairman of the Central Military Chief there. That was Zhang Youxia. You just saw there. So these are top level officials. They're watching. That really speaks volume about how important Beijing sees this mission.
And
we
it's
just
a good
realized-
occasion,
yeah.
It's a good occasion and good timing for celebrating the party's 100 years.
It's a moment of pride too. This is Xu Qiliang, the other vice chairman of Central Military Commission. He is watching this launch very closely at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center,
各号注
among
意，
other
我是宁浩，
leaders.
3分钟准备。
So we've got two groups of high-level leaders watching this launch from
各号注意，3分
Beijing
钟准备。
and also at Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. All right, 3 minutes to go till launch. And it's interesting, it's usually quiet at the launch control around this time as we're getting close to time zero. Not much calm going on there except for a few simple commands and the final countdown. And that's because the final status checks by now has all been completed. And that's a good sign. You don't want to hear too much noises around this time.
Yeah, they have a set of code of conduct is already undergoing, so everything went well. So they're everything being quiet. If anyone raises a voice, that means there's an anomaly.
I believe at this moment the electrical supply has already transferred from ground to the interior batteries.
2 minutes to go. A nerve-wracking moment, I mean, for the flight crew, for the whole launch team, and for all of us who are watching. As much as this is a moment for excitement, it's also a moment for anxiety, isn't it?
And also the launching schedule is really tight for the China Space Station program. And we witnessed the first core module launch in the end of the April, and we saw the cargo ship just launch to the orbit just following maybe it's a few weeks later.
Even the cargo ship was delayed for a week, but was successfully launched into space.
Right.
And right now, for the astronauts who are waiting there for launch, there's really not much they can do for this period of time. They're strapped in, things are out of their hands. They're relying on their team to get them out there safely. There we see the crew of Shenzhou 12 mission in the middle. Nie Haisheng, the flight commander, and alongside with him are the flight engineers, Liu Boming and Tang Hongbo.
Yes.
All right, that's the call out. T-minus 60 seconds. An incredible moment to witness. Truly majestic view.
The astronauts are ready, in their ready position.
They're ready.
Yeah, and soon we're going to see the umbilicals being detached. That's going to happen from any moment from now.
The arms will be finally
there you see
attached.
the retractable arm has been rolled back.
Wow. The historic moments is coming. And
30 seconds till launch. The first crewed mission destined for Tiangong, China Space Station on board the Shenzhou 12 spacecraft. Less than 20 seconds to go.
And the Shenzhou 12 will be Nie Haisheng's third space out.
That's right. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. You see the booster kicking in. And liftoff. Just spectacular. The launch of Shenzhou 12 spacecraft heading to the Chinese space station, the divine vessel shipping away from its spaceport. Its destination, the heavenly palace. 3 astronauts on board the Shenzhou 12 spacecraft will be ferried to the core module of China Space Station. And of course, you're hearing the voices from the launch team providing tracking status, saying things are going good. That's the sound we'd like to hear. We have different ground tracking stations.
Okay, it's pitched over. Change its direction of flight.
All right. And that's the view of the side boosters. You're looking down at the tail of the rocket.
This is a camera on the second stage.
Major event coming up is the separation of the escape tower, right? That's going to happen about 2 minutes into the flight.
2 minutes.
And because the sky today is really clear, so we have a beautiful view.
Clear visual.
Yeah, we can have the clear visual of the rockets coming, launching off into the sky. And
right. The astronauts, they look fine to me. They look okay.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, the rocket has 4 side boosters. Those are the 2 out of the 4 you're watching there.
So is that supposed to be the period that the astronauts feel very uncomfortable?
Yes, that's
speeding
the
up.
very
Speeding up.
beginning period.
They
Yes.
were already experiencing the G load.
Yeah.
All right.
When we'll see peak G load?
The separation before the first stage.
Okay, so we're not there yet.
Yeah.
The G-forces are increasing.
First thing would be the separation of the strap-on boosters.
Yeah.
No, the first one will be setting of the emergency escape tower.
If everything goes right, we're going to see the escape tower jettison
we
in a
won't be
few
able
moments.
to see it on the camera because this camera was looking down to the strap-on boosters.
Oh, that's the 3D
simulation.
animation.
Yeah.
That animation is based on
that's
real-time
the
telemetry.
escape tower.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's the separation of the escape tower that we just saw there. And you heard the call out.
And
That's
then,
the infrared
150
image.
seconds will be the separation of the 4 boosters.
A great infrared image showing you a successful separation of the escape tower, really indicating the low-level flight, the initial stage of the flight went well.
That's in fact an infrared camera that is looking at the rocket itself.
Right.
So this is the video.
Again, the side boosters.
Coming up next is
Booster separation.
the booster separation.
Yep.
And first stage,
Wow.
there you see
separation.
the booster
The
separation.
4 side boosters has been separated from the core stage.
And the first stage rocket
Beautiful.
separation. You see the 5 bright dots? Those
Yeah,
are
that's
the
right.
4
Beautiful.
side boosters and the one
And also the
stage
core
1
stage,
rocket.
the first stage is also
Core
already
stage rocket.
separated.
So now the astronauts should be feeling really comfortable, and they're making some movement. You can see.
Oh, they're waving to the camera. I'm
And
telling
the next
the team they're okay.
operation will be just jettisoning of the payload fairings.
I think that's the image of the stage 2 rocket engine.
Exactly. The
Coming
camera
up next-
mounted on towards the backward.
Right. Coming up next is the shutdown of the stage 2 rocket engine.
And there is only one main engine for the
Only
second
one main
stage.
engine
Okay.
and
Main
four
That's the
vernier
view
engines.
of the
one main
spacecraft,
engine
right?
and
That's
four
the-
more vernier engines. Vernier engines is to control the attitude.
All right.
Yeah,
That's
the
the
fairing.
jettison of the
Yeah, yeah,
fairing.
yeah.
That's the solar panel you're seeing. Which module is that? Is that the orbital module, service module? Service module. Is
It
it?
is separation of the payload fairings.
The fairing covers the service module as well as the capsule.
The camera, as you mentioned, is mounted on the I believe the propulsion module.
There you can see the Earth from the
Yes.
camera on the spacecraft.
Now we can already.
The ellipse of
That's
the
a great
Earth.
visual,
Beautiful.
双程光学雷达跟踪正常。
So a series of fast maneuvers and status reports there.
So far,
9:26 a.m. Beijing time here. About 4 minutes into the flight, everything continues to look good.
They should be already 100 kilometers above Earth already. That is
Wow, it's incredible to hear how fast the rocket.
the whole
is going.
process that before they are hitting the orbit, it just need like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, 580 seconds also.
Yeah, roughly 10 minutes. Yeah.
And the next critical step will be the shutdown of the main engine. And then it will work on the 4 vernier engines. Vernier engines can rotate in different directions to control the attitude. And finally, and can adjust the orbit to be accurate enough.
So this engine you're seeing from the screen is very important because it has to have a surgical precision of when to shut down, to eject that spacecraft into the precise altitude and position to catch up with the station.
And what's it like to endure so many G-forces? I guess we are going to hit the time when the crew will feel maximum G-forces before the second stage rocket shut down?
They've already passed the most inconvenient period.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, already. Because the thrust of the second stage is not very large.
Okay.
Only one engine, one main engine. Just before the
青
separation.
山 USB 跟踪正常，
And we really
遥测信号正
didn't
常。
notice much difference from their facial expression, from their body gesture. I guess they've been trained to endure such pressure.
We can see from the left screen that's the shows
3D
the data
animations.
link between the ground station and the vehicle.
USB 跟踪正常。
And that animation is based on real-time telemetry. It's not a pre-made video. It's really showing you what's
Yes.
going on in real time.
东风光学
This is a real
USB雷
camera.
达跟踪正
Yeah.
常。
And you can see the sky become dark because it's already in outer space. It's black, pitch black.
The bright part is the Earth, is the
Yeah.
horizon of the Earth,
And
very
there are
bright.
numerous cameras on this vehicle, and they have light on it to illuminate the rocket so that everything shows up on camera, and engineers can take a look at them, just in case of a problem or anything. They
Because it's already in almost a vacuum condition, so the vibration is not so intensive than the initial stage.
So this engine, the second stage engine with has been designed for just one main engine and 4 extra engines. This kind of design was specially designed for the precise orbit entering.
It comes from the original design of the Long March 2 rocket. So we saved a lot of money by using the same engine on the first and the second stage, just a different configuration with vacuum condition. But still we need the 4 vernier engines. Vernier engine is much smaller than the main engine, but with these engines we can have an
青山
accurate
USB
adjust
跟踪正
of the
常，
orbit.
遥测信号正常。
Okay.
It's almost 9:30 a.m. We are almost about 8 minutes into the flight. And keep in mind that this is China's first crewed mission since 2016, nearly 5 years ago. It's also China's 7th crewed spaceflight overall in the past 18 years. Ground tracking staff are saying everything is normal, is going nominal. You just saw some bright orange flame there.
The main engine is shut down.
Now it's been shut down. Another critical step being completed.
So now those astronauts
Now they're floating.
Oh, they're
Now
floating.
They're floating. So
now they're supposed to feel more comfortable.
they do look like they're a bit more at ease now. They're looking at their flight manual.
We can hear from the voice that it shows that the USB, the tracking, the video tracking, and also the optical cameras tracking very normal. So the vernier engine, the 4 vernier engines is still working to adjust its orbit very accurately.
Yeah, and they're looking out of the window. You can see the light from the window.
Yeah. This is a camera on board on the propulsion module.
Okay.
You can see the folded panels, the 4 pieces of panels on one side.
And coming up next will be the spacecraft separation.
Exactly. After the shutdown of the 4 vernier engines.
So in fact, they're fine-tuning their attitude and make sure that it's facing in the right directions before they shut down and separate the engine.
Yeah.
Usually the separation is near the eastern coast of Shandong province.
How this spacecraft is gonna find the Tampa core module in space? I mean, there's nothing that you can use to.
Well, there's so many things. I mean, there's signals that transmitting to each other. Their navigation systems, their beidou, they're communicating, and their ground crews are supporting. So this time the astronaut doesn't have to do too much, and it's going to be automatic, fast connection.
Yes.
The robotic just take care of everything.
The Shenzhou 12 mission, once again, will last about 3 months in space, the longest stay in space to date by Chinese astronauts.
Oh, separation.
All right, you see the great separation of spacecraft. The second stage is drifting away.
That's right.
So the next critical step will be the unfolding of the solar panels.
Solar panels. Wow.
So once the separation is done, the capsule and the service module has to adjust its own attitude.
And you can see the spacecraft, the full view of the spacecraft from that 3D animation, right? You can see the returning capsule in the middle, and then the orbiting module and the service module. Another great view of the Earth.
That's just the,
This is a video from the camera mounted on the spacecraft.
As we're just standing by for the deployment of solar panels.
Look at our home.
The voice says that the data link between the vehicle and the data relay satellite has been established.
You can see that the pin is floating.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're tossing things around.
Yeah.
Look inside the
They are just enjoying the microgravity now.
I think the astronauts are just showing off to us.
There's one first timer.
Oh. They just won't let us know.
This is the first time for Hongbo.
I tell you that.
First time for Hongbo, so it's going to be an exciting journey.
All right. So this is the Shenzhou 12 mission, and this mission will involve a series of technical verification tasks related to the performance and function of the Tiangong core module. It will include extravehicular activity using EVA suits delivered by Tianzhou 2, the cargo ship, and the verification of the regenerative life support system. So everything's going to happen after 6 or 7 hours later, right? After they docking with the Tiangong core module.
And you can see the movement of the blue Earth around the spacecraft.
Yeah.
So it's
Just
really moving very nice.
amazing.
Great picture here.
That's right.
华山出轨根数及分离点参数发出，景山。
The voice tells
There
us
you see the deployment of solar panels.
Now the solar panel is unfolding.
unfolded.
Major tearings.
Normally
in the
for
audience
satellite launch, this would be the success signal.
Oh, yeah.
So at this
There you
moment,
have
the
it.
spacecraft has continuous power supply.
That was, this is the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. The image earlier was from Beijing. This is the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center once again.
So the guys who's responsible for rockets are relaxed. Their job is done. So now it's up to the life support system.
That's also a relay race, right?
Yes, yes.
And this is from Beijing Aerospace City.
And it's a spacecraft right now in the same orbit of the
Yeah, it's the
Tiangong
same
module?
altitude,
The same.
but they need to have final adjustment so that they can catch up with the.
At this moment, the Shenzhou 12 is in the same orbital plane of the Tianhe 1,
天路
but
1
with
号
a
领
different
4
altitude.
跟踪正常，前反向数据收发正常。
Usually the apogee is 200 kilometers, and the perigee is 200 kilometers, and the apogee depends on the control, and usually more than 300 kilometers high.
Up until now, everything is going well, but we don't want to call it too early. We are standing by for an official announcement from the launch team that's going to happen any moment from now.
We should confirm, as we've already heard the voice, that the initial orbital parameters has been sent to the ground stations, but we still need to verify and checking the accurate orbital parameters, because you know that these orbital parameters must be accurate enough to ensure that it can have the chance to dock with the station.
Yeah.
So only in this moment we can announce the success of the launch.
So
Not only launch into orbit, but still need to be accurate enough.
So lots of calculations there going on.
If it is
on the
not
ground.
accurate, it will waste a lot of propellants. So maybe not make it impossible to dock with the station.
So we'll be taking a few burns before we catch up. So it's going to be using the apogee and perigee as well as the inclination to catch up with the station. So at the precise point, it will burn the engine to lift the altitude of the Shenzhou, so it can have a precise alignment with the Tianhe.
Usually we have 5 to 6 orbit maneuvers before docking with the station. And it will be done automatically.
The orbit maneuver will be.
So this the ground staff will be more relaxed because it will be done by the vehicle itself.
But also the astronaut could kick in to maneuver that.
No, this will be not, because you know that it will be calculated in the onboard computers, not by the astronauts. Only in some emergency cases the astronaut can do something.
Oh, they are.
They're waving hands
opening
to
their
us.
helmets.
Hello.
They're waving to cameras. Well, a way of telling our team there they're okay, and another way of saying thank you.
Yes, just now we have just heard that the capsule itself has a good environment to open the helmet.
That is perfect.
So this means that for the third time, Mr. Nie Haisheng visited the outer space.
Yeah.
He becomes the second astronaut in China, just after Jing Haipeng, who have achieved 3 missions.
3 missions. Veteran.
Impressive.
And
And we're about
salute to the
16 minutes into the flight.
So the person who stays in space for the longest period of time, that would be his record.
You can see Tang Hongbo and Liu Boming, who's sitting beside the window,
They're
looking
watching out
yeah,
through the window.
enjoying, take it all in. The majestic view.
As I mentioned,
But
it
Nie
is the
Haisheng-
most favorite thing of the astronauts.
Yes.
Just enjoy the view of the Earth.
And it seems the solar panels are working properly.
You can actually hear the astronauts talking to each other.
They're talking about the velocity, 7.8, 7.9. That means kilometers per second. They're looking at their own speed.
Yeah.
348公里，倾角41.3度，周期1小时30分钟的预定轨道。太阳帆板展开，飞船工况正常，航天员状态良好。北京出轨根数及飞点参数已向各方向发出，后续工作按照正常计划实施。东风
Talk to us what we just heard there. A series of
We
status
heard
reports.
that the initial orbit, the perigee is 200 kilometers, and the apogee is 345 kilometers, which means that it's a little bit lower than the than our station. This also means, as Yan Song has mentioned, it will circle the Earth faster than the Tiangong, Tianhe, and it can act as a chasing vehicle. With several orbits, it can go closer to the station. So after they close to within the distance of 52 kilometers, the long distance guidance will be ended, and then they will depend on the relative measurements, as I mentioned, the microwave radar, the lidar, and also the optical sensors to achieve the automatic docking.
So they also mentioned about the inclination 41 degrees, and they also mentioned about the route parameters. The route parameters is for the vehicle to maneuver, and based on that route parameters, and all the ground control team has to know that exact number to know where to start with. So that's all the report, which means basically means it's a good and successful launch.
Oh, I was going to ask you that. Based on those data, how good of a launch was it?
Well,
a
so
lot
far,
of jargon
so
going
good.
on.
So far, so good. Yeah.
北京东风报告。
我是北京，东风请讲。
下面请发射场区指挥部指挥长、中国酒泉卫星发射中心张志芬主任宣布发射结果。
北京明白，各号注意收听。
各位领导，
Honorable leaders,
根据
comrades,
北京航天飞行
according
控
to
制
the
中心
report
通
from
报
the， Beijing Aerospace
长
Control
征
Center,
2号 F 12
Long
火
March
箭
2 FY
已
12
将
rocket
神舟12号
has
载
sent
人飞船
Shenzhou 12
准确
manned
射入预定
spacecraft
轨
to
道
the preset
帆
orbit.
板展开
The solar
工
panel
作正常
unfolded functionally
我宣布
well
神
and
舟
also
12号
successfully.
发射
I
任
now
务
declare the
取得
launch of Shenzhou
圆满
12
成
mission
功
a complete success.
北京东风报告，发射结果宣布完毕。
北京明白，各号注意，今天的发射任务到此结束，请按计划做好运行段测控工作。东风，
东风明白，
华山，
华山明白，
江阴，
江阴明白，
天路，
天路明白，
长江6号，
长江6号明白。
10号。